Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, now on the Weld Like Bazza podcast, please welcome the one and only Bazza!
I think it's called ELCOR3 or something like that. It's our exam room at college.
That sounds like some kind of a top secret classified kind of number, that does.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. We're on the E floor, and then I presume CR was obviously a classroom, but yeah, as for why it's what it is, it's...
Let's start exactly where are we today? What building are we in? What is the location?
We're at Keighley College, so we're on sort of Luminate Education, but we are the Keighley College campus. And we're up in the exam room on the top floor. But
we don't sit here all the time, Adam. So what are you responsible for? And basically, how did you get here?
So I'm the sort of the course lead for our welding and fabrication apprenticeships. So I look after...
So you're a plumber then by trade?
Yeah, that's it, full of leaks. But I've been here about just over 7 years. But obviously left school, typical sort of 16-year-old kid that didn't know what they wanted to do, and fell into welding because my dad's best mate was like head of faculty here at the time.
Right, okay.
And he told me there's loads of money in it and you can travel the world and there's always a shortage.
So you've got loads of money at bank and you've travelled the world then?
That's it, 4 houses, drive a Ferrari, never look back.
So, first of all, thanks for inviting me in. I think it's something that I've really wanted to push forward this year and last year is getting out there with the apprentices. And also, if you listen to all the previous podcast shows, something that I continuously push is, number one, the lack of skill. And I think it's an aging trade. So getting new people into skill, I think it's really, really important. I think something else that we touched on earlier while having a brew is the importance of doing the job right now more than ever. As we spoke about, somebody's been lucky for 40 years without something going wrong, without qualifications and getting it right. So how do you go about your daily bread? What do you do? What goes on at Keighley College in your division?
So we have the split programme, so we have a full-time contingency where we run the City and Guilds level 2 courses, which obviously well recognised. City and Guilds are they're a big deal across all trades, really, not just welding. Yeah. So it's a reputable sort of qualification that you can get. Yeah. So you always get the budding sort of 16-year-olds who've come out of school. Some are practically minded, some have followed one of the mates in. But right. My colleague Simon will push them through a year. They get loads of welding time, much more than the average apprentice would.
Okay.
So we build the sort of passion for welding, and they get excited. You can burn yourself. There's all sorts of risks associated in it. There's a little bit of that excitement with it. Yeah. And then the ones that really flourish will come to me normally in year 2, and we'll push them and we'll get them an apprenticeship, and I take them through up through level 2 up into the level 3s.
So when they go to Simon, initially, if they're coming at 16 years old, is that the kids that don't want to do like 6th form, doing maths, geography, that kind of thing? Yeah. They want to be a little bit more practically based, and they're coming, right, we're going to do as further education, so to speak, 16 to 18. We're going to go to a college, but we're going to work on welding.
Exactly that. Right. So it's beneficial because, having been that kid that could at school but didn't like it, sitting in a classroom all the time wasn't for me. That's why I wanted out. Yeah. So it's perfect for that. If you like getting your hands mucky, getting involved, this is the place to be, really.
So your history, obviously we've crossed paths previously, but from just starting to weld, because you were told there were loads of money in it, and now you've got 19 Ferraris, you worked at, where did you work, start off with first job?
I started off at a little shop fittings company called Cardinals, it was in Shipley.
Right, doing like brackets and frames and stuff.
Soul destroying, where you'd get like a batch of 2,000 pegs for Marks and Spencers that had underwear hung on them, or basket holders. It was tough going.
That's the kind of stuff you did?
Yeah, but I learned to MIG weld, TIG weld, and I learned to braze.
Nice.
So I did it for 2 years and then realised it was all jig work, and if I wanted to progress my career, I needed a level 3, so I moved on and went to a company called STS.
And what did you do there?
Bit of everything, really. It was your proper backstreet bespoke fab and weld shop. So we'd make gates, railings, staircases, do structural steel.
Right.
We did wagon conversions and repair work.
Right.
All sorts of stuff, really. Never the same job twice, really.
And then after that, you went to our mutual friend, Byworth Boilers?
I did, yes.
And that's where it started, I guess, on a much heavier level.
yeah, you realise then the sort of, not to run companies down, but the sort of quality that you can achieve by having state-of-the-art equipment, fancy welding machines, and more time allowed for you to actually learn things and sort of hone your skills without being sort of yelled at, which some people don't mind that, but it didn't do me any favours in my early 20s when I wanted to get better and I didn't necessarily have the sort of foundation to do so.
Yeah, and I think now what's with how things are progressing now, kids, apprentices, younger members of staff, everybody's getting more time because there's HR involved, and it's far removed now from 20, 30 years ago when you were getting whipped if you didn't do what the boss wanted you to do.
Yeah.
We've moved on now where health and safety is a lot better.
Yes.
Working environments are a lot better. There's still risks involved with welding, as we all know. Yeah. So now I think it is a really good time. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's much better than, like, my first screen was something that I held in my hand, no bigger than a cornflakes box, and I kind of peeped around the edges to see what my dad were doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I started out when I was given I think it was a par weld auto screen.
Yeah.
But I didn't have those at college when you were learning. You had the sort of, you put your own filter lens in, and if you needed it to go darker, you took it out, put the next one in.
Put a 13 in.
And I managed to take the screen when I left Cardinals, so I could take it to my next job. They didn't have an auto screen in there. They were all old school.
Right.
And they didn't like it at first, but then bit by bit, they sort of grew into it as you realise that
it does help.
Yeah, and you've got them with a grind mode on and stuff, haven't you? So they are just more universal now. And for me, to go back to the old-fashioned one, I don't imagine I could ever do it, but
it's funny.
You should always have one in your kit box, shouldn't you, just in case, you know?
Well, if you've ever watched my old videos or where we've done something in workshop, my dad's old handheld ones, he didn't even have he had a hook in the wall and he put some electrical wire around handle so he could hang it up on wall and we keep it there. I never use it because I can't see through lens, but it's good. And then, so at Byworths, obviously, we're talking about working to pressure standards, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it's pressure vessels, it's good quality material, and it's a good product, it's a British product, but ultimately, when you start working at a pressure level, it comes with a huge, number one, there's an increase in skill required, and there's an even bigger responsibility to do the job right, more than ever.
Yeah. And it's good that you get that level of exposure, and you learn it, and then you think, all right, this is, the lad that I used to work with ended up working at Byworth years down the line, and I crossed paths with him when I was assessing a student, and he said, I thought I could weld, and then I came here and realised there was a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And it was, when you're putting in 25 to 28 volt routes in 20 mil plate butt welds and things like that, the level of discrepancy that you're allowed is low, and therefore when the UTers come in, they used to be nervous every Tuesday and Friday, hoping that
not another failure.
Yeah, overtime for repair work, and we never a good overtime what you were repairing because everyone were waiting on it. So to learn that level of welding skill and quality was really good for me. Did
you ever get time on sub-arc? I think, I remember, it never happened now, would it? It never happened. My dad would take me in, sneak me in at school holidays, when Peter were there running shop, and, I'd end up running sub-arc at like 12, 13 years old after my dad had spent all night repairing it. Do you know what I mean? That was like my first go at running sub-arc at 700 amps.
It's a fair machine. I never actually got to run on it. I didn't spend overly large amounts of time in the construction, unless it were like filling in or doing like fitting work in there. But they had the pressure on them because obviously the big seams would need to be done on it, didn't they? So seeing that thick level of wire running in at the amperage that it put through,
4 square mil.
It was a hell of a thing. And when it went down, it was a big problem because
it's always a big problem.
Everything stopped, didn't it? But when you looked at it back before they got the newer ones in, it was, they couldn't find bits for it because it was so old. So trying to keep it running.
I think my dad put that ESAB that were next to fire door before they expanded outwards. My dad put that in, and then I think Peter got an old Lincoln, which my dad coupled up and coupled together. Do you remember one that Robbie D used to work on years ago when they only had 2 sub-arcs?
Yeah.
And blowdown tank sub-arc used to be an old FCR 650, which sadly passed away about a year ago. We replaced it 18 months ago. But we had to put an 800 amp power source in there at 100% to be able to do blowdown tanks properly. So it's come on in leaps and bounds, but let's take it back to what you're doing here, being in charge of apprentices. Do you get to run stuff at 32 and 34 volts downstairs?
Not so much. We do, obviously, when we're covering modes of transfer with mag welding and stuff like that, you have to be able to see it rather than just tell about it, watch your video.
So you put 1 mil wire on and you whack it up and you make it go into spray, make everybody watch that.
Yeah, we'll do that and then let them have a go. But obviously, because of the cycles that we've got on our machines, they're not the sort of coolant driven ones that'll run those sort of volts.
So the torch get red hot, machine turns off.
You get to have a couple of runs and then I say, right, move into a different bay, and we have to sort of span it around because we've got some old sets in there that are probably, well, I probably learned on them when I was 16 at the old college.
I've heard it's my responsibility to keep them going for a bit longer.
It'll be good, mate, because one of the main things is you budget in it, and if we could replace 10 welders with new ones, I think that's massively overlooked, and we can bring that up later on today, but I think it's overlooked in just how you don't have a big budget here. No.
It's not big. You're here for the love of it, primarily, to get the best out of the kids, and it's really important to get more students through now as apprentices.
Yeah, absolutely.
That gap is so big now. People are retiring and they've not been replaced forever, and the kind of guys doing the job that you initially did, doing the knickers and bra hangers for Marks and Spencer's, they're not really going to make a direct transition into that skill gap of doing stuff for SpaceX, NASA, Byworth boilers. They're never going to be at that standard, and it's something that you need to work towards, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we often say that, and I will bang on about it to people. So I finally just got a new machine in the workshop, but having that, talking about it and showing them videos and explaining things to them, but then from inspiring them to want to go into it, having some equipment that can actually show them on, this is what you might be using, as opposed to training them on stuff where I learned on it before this stuff that you can have now existed.
Yeah.
And it was good then, but 20 years later, it's way outdated.
Yeah.
So being able to have that sort of modern equipment to show them, and then when they go into it, it's not sort of night and day different. They've seen it and tried it.
They've actually used it. Yeah. They're hands-on. Yeah.
So having that level of equipment would be great. So I've pushed now to try and say, look, we should have some sort of investment plan where every year or 2 years we should be looking to update and buy in something new.
Borrow some of Baz's stuff. Baz, can we borrow an EWM for a couple of days?
Yeah, just rent one off you and see what they are. And
I think the way that I feel about education, the skill gap being so important, I'd always help you out. You don't need to rent machines from me. I'd always make sure you can have something at your disposal. I think it's really important, and something I've stood by for a long time is, I'm not here to make profit out of a college. I'm here to make sure that we've got people who still want to buy and use welding machines in 20 years' time. That's ultimately why I'm here. And if I'm not here, giving my time, giving my effort, helping out where I can, we're not going to have those guys in 20 years because, the skill gaps, they're not going to get that bite. They're not going to get that chew. They're not going to get into those new machines and that new technology.
Yeah. And just being able to have, like this place is probably about 15-year-old now.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
the facility that we've got, if you look back, you could say it could be reconfigured to actually make the use of the space better. So we've got 15 welding bays, which is great, but having more space of a dedicated area where you could do something larger scale, to build in your fabrication units, to be able to weld out in the open and get into more
rotational pipe and stuff. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
More real life, because there's, for all the jobs where you stand and do a fillet weld on a flat table, that's sort of not reality, is it? If you're underneath something, having to weld something in an awkward position or getting remote access, being able to actually practice that and show somebody it means that they can actually push on and maybe go for those level of jobs rather than the bench welding jobs.
It'd be good to be able to get them to be able to true up a piece of 12-inch pipe on it.
Yeah.
And actually put a flange on.
Exactly.
And you're not going to be able to do that without reconfiguring space, I guess. That'll be your next thing to do.
So with us having, again, it's on, I float these ideas across and, it's a pipe dream, but we've just got the new engineering centre over the road that's cost millions of pounds that we got through a towns fund.
Right.
State-of-the-art engineering centre downstairs, all brand new equipment.
Okay.
Around there could be another unit that potentially, with the right investment or whatever, you could get that and turn that into your dedicated training centre. So you still have your full-time contingency learning the ropes downstairs. But then that could be an apprentice training for my coded welding centre that we run. You could have that over there as a spin-off. So you've got more space for if you've got a pipe welder coming in to do a 6G on some sort of 150 diameter in a small bay, it's not exactly convenient for you to get into those positions to weld round it.
No.
So having that extra sort of 2 foot either side would be so much more worthwhile for the things that you can do.
Bit, yeah. Because you just touched on it there. It's not just the apprentices that you train, is it? You've got other things that you offer as well from both yours and Simon's point. Yeah,
so before I started, obviously Simon was running the Coded Welding Centre. So we've got the sort of TWI CSWIP accreditation that we're both instructor examiners for.
Yeah.
So we can deliver coded welding for not just local business, but end of the day, if you can drive in, if we're cheaper than getting somebody to come to your facility and do it there and then with you can come here, use the equipment, do your weld tests. We can test it in-house. We can send it away depending on what your requirements are. And we can sort of send out a lot of work for those people that need the compliance, as we said earlier, about not just having a go because that's what you were shown.
Yeah,
coming and doing it correctly, having the procedures, having the qualifications.
And you can help them with all that, can't you?
Of course I can. And it's, we spend money to be able to do it every year, so it'd be good to see a real push in that to get more people in doing it.
How long did it take you to become a TWIC SWIP accredited as an instructor?
Not long, really, because at the end of the day, you've got to be able to pass your 4 weld tests, which obviously coming from where I was fine.
So your 4 weld tests were?
I had a flux core fillet, I had to do a mag fillet, a TIG fillet on some stainless steel, and an MMA fillet.
On what size material?
So 6mm and 10mm and 3mm a lot of the time.
You didn't have to go above 10mm?
No, not really. Because at the end of the day, for a lot of it procedurally, if you can set the joint up, a 10mm butt weld is the same as a 21.
Or a 31, exactly.
Once you know the prep and the procedure, it's just adjusting your sets in it and knowing how many fills of weld you're going to have to get in there.
Brilliant.
So it took a few months really to get through it, do your welds, and then you've got to pass your exams.
Right.
But again, if you know your welding knowledge and stuff like that, it's not too bad.
And you passed first time?
I did, yeah.
Awesome.
Weren't all 100%, I won't lie, but there were a couple of 80, 90%ers, so I were happy enough.
That's still a pass. It's still a pass. So you basically CSWIP for TWI approved, and you can accredit people for what?
We can do BS 4872 coded welding. We can do ISO 9606 welding.
Which that'd be the best one to go for, wouldn't it?
For sure.
9606.
More recognised across industry. It gives you that more coverage, I suppose, because it's procedural. It's not just sticking a weld together and it's all right when we test it. It gives you that bigger scale of if you are going to go work for one of these larger companies that do this level of welding, 4872 is not really that well appreciated compared to its 9606.
That's more for somebody who they don't really, to be honest, they probably don't need any kind of any acknowledgement. They don't need any procedural work. But then something comes along, a job comes along, and all of a sudden it's for a customer and somebody's asking for something new. They don't need to be pressure vessel approved, but they need to be able to get some kind of accreditation to say we can weld to this standard.
Exactly.
And that's all right. And they might not ever need to retake it again.
No, it gets you 2 years, and if that were just to get through one contract, and like you say, sometimes it's for a company, they're just paying the bills, aren't they? And if that's a decent earner for them, for the sake of them coming and spending 300 quid and getting a coded weld or 2 coded welds, whatever they need to cover that particular job, then, great, we're good for that as well. So we're not saying don't come if you're not a real making the world a different welder, but we cover all bases, and we can even do it for local businesses or people that need to upskill. I can do little training workshops with them for a period of time,
right?
And
that'd be bespoke, the kind of thing that I do. You bespokely tailor something for somebody.
What are you likely to come across in the field when you're doing your job?
Right.
And then we'll set those positions up, those joint configurations, and get them practice on it. I'll give them my input, and then it's all about timing it, just doing it.
Practice.
And then I just keep in their ear. They ask me if they need something, I show them a little bit, do another one. Right. And at the end of it, we can do that sort of lower level 4872 coded weld at the end. So they've got a certificate and a compliant procedure to go with.
Rough pricing for somebody to come off the street who can weld, who's got a little bit of knowledge, who can, is going to need a little bit of time. Let's say they're going to need 4 days in the shop and they're going to need testing.
I do them £200 a day for workshop time, because obviously it's my time, obviously using the power, the metal, the wire, the gas.
Yeah, it's all expensive.
It costs us a fortune, really. Yeah. And we'll run full day workshop with them, and then at the end of that 4 week, we'll do them a weld test.
Yeah.
And
tested in-house by yourself?
We test it in-house. Obviously, if I'm doing one, because obviously for compliance, there's me and Simon that do it.
Yeah.
So if he's assessing it, I would inspect the weld, or vice versa. So we are, ticking those boxes. So it's right. We're not just marking your own homework and cheating because you like the guy and you don't want to let him down because he's paid his money.
Good.
But at the end of the day, it's, in the worst case scenario, bad welding can kill people, can't it? Or cause massive problems.
Major problems, major financial setbacks for companies. I think, and it's overlooked. But I think now, more than ever, is one of the most important times to learn the skill set as a welder. And my take on this is, we spoke about it, Fraser, who was at Biowas forever,
top bloke, really top bloke,
and he'd been staring at that arc his entire life. When he bowed out at that, he'd done his time as a welder. Who's replaced him? Yeah, people's obviously moved into Biowas, but as a whole, as a generational kind of industry, these people are leaving, and a lot of people are doing the jigging work or the jobbing work, but not really moving into the higher level of welding. And there's going to be, it's known, isn't it? I'm sure you know the facts more than me, but it's known there's a massive gap.
Yeah, you can't go on LinkedIn without seeing a post from either our endpoint assessment company, which is NGPA, that we run with, but TWI do it as well. The global shortage is in the hundreds of thousands. And as you say, those people that are doing the sort of lower level welding, it's not something you can just jump into. You've got to be able to practice that and learn it. And if you're not in it, it's very difficult to get that exposure.
So from your point of view, how would somebody, it's always good to hear other people's kind of take on it, but somebody's doing those job fitting jobs, how do they get into the higher level stuff? How can you help them?
Well, because we run the apprenticeship program, we deal with a lot of the companies in the area.
Yeah.
And other people you meet that come in and maybe do some sort of coded welding. Where do they work? What do they do? It's always nice to push that to my students, whether it's the full-time ones that when we talk to them, or the current apprentices that we've got, because it's, as well as we work with these companies, it's nice to sort of aspire to be something if you really want it.
Yeah.
And chase the money.
Yeah.
I think that's hard because a lot of the companies that do that higher level welding don't necessarily pay you a damn sight more to do it, as opposed to the sort of lower level one.
I don't think so much in the UK. No.
Yeah, in which case they go, well, I'm going to have to really bust my chops for 40 hours a week there.
Yeah.
For the same money as I get for doing something that's a doddle. And it's hard to sort of disagree with that, with the cost of paying your bills these days.
I know a lot of people that I know at the moment, quite a few people talking about moving out to Oz.
Yeah.
America's, they're probably still top of the tree regarding how many welders have still got out there, to be fair. But people are moving away for their jobs because the UK doesn't pay the good amount of money in most applications, most situations, to keep the good guys, unfortunately. And I'm finding it more and more. I don't know what you're hearing.
Yeah, you see a lot of it. Like, my sister, for example, she lives in Dubai, and has done since...
She's a welder, yeah?
Yeah, big time. No, she's not, but she went out there because there was a great career opportunity. Right. And when you look at it from a welding standpoint, Australia, the Middle East, they've got a lot of welding requirements. They're constantly developing.
Yeah.
And when you see these tickets to go out and you can go do a contract for 2 years in New Zealand, the life experience of seeing that as well. You go into a beautiful place for 2 years, getting paid decent money.
Better way of life.
Yeah. And then a lot of the time you find that they think, actually, why come back?
Why come back?
If you get another contract, and once you set, they're living the dream, aren't they, on better money for the same job that we're doing here.
And I know quite a few people who's moved out to New Zealand, not come back, to be fair. So why would you not? But what that does on the UK shores is it leaves us with even less good quality welders. And something that I spoke about on my last podcast with Catch, we've not released that one yet. AI is not going to take over this job so quick.
No, can't see it. You've got your robotic welders and your orbitals and stuff coming in, but they're not getting into this sort of confined remote spaces to do that sort of access pipe work and things like that. That's still very much a person job.
And even in the situation where you might incorporate a robot, and this is what I'm finding and telling people, the people who get the best out of the robots and the cobots are the people who are really good at welding in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you want to put Rachel from accounts on a cobot and expect it to weld, it's not going to work. And if you want John from logistics to come in and set up a cobot without any training or welding knowledge, it's not going to work. And I always kind of say to people, don't be scared of the cobot and the robot situation. If you're a really good welder, that knowledge is going to get applied and you're going to be able to make a robot sing, whereas everybody else in the factory is not going to be able to do it. And use it as a second hand. You're going to be able to, I'll set the robot up to do those jobs. Nobody wants to weld those skips anyway. I'll crack on with the good stuff. And I think that's where it should be. These jobbing, these bracketry jobs, this table stuff, this jigging work, that eventually will be more pushed towards the robotic cobot stuff, but only by somebody who's really good at welding, setting it up in the first place to make sure it's right.
Because at the end of the day, it's still got to stick together, hasn't it? And if you don't know how to set it up, it's still running on volts and amps. So
and your travel speed,
So if you're setting it up all wrong, you'll still have a table that legs drop off when somebody sits on it, and then you're still in trouble with your insurance, aren't you? And it's the amount of stuff that you see that people buy cheap and get shipped in from wherever across the world to cut corners. When at Cardinals, they started doing that, and I used to make these like 30 box section telescopic frames with a little Boss TIG welded on the end of it.
Right.
And then they started subcontracting it out to China, and it were coming back, and those bosses just had a MIG tack either side.
Not properly welded, just a little tack.
Cold as, and when they got back off at ship to come over, half of them had bent and dropped off, and then I'd get a repair job of 300 of these units. You had to grind all the powder coating off, get a new boss, TIG weld it on. You think, how cheap are they doing it? And they're still not having to follow any sort of procedure to do it properly.
Yeah, I think it's that's scary. That and I saw somebody contacted me regarding a wind turbine job, and they were like, "How do you think that's been done?" And I was like, "Quite badly." And it was not for a huge, like not for the great big wind turbines, but pretty big. Like the ones that you see on farms. Yeah, that are spinning at like stupid amounts of speed. And it was a centralized hub, and I had a look at it. I was like, it's a big job, is that, like, oh, well, I'm going to borrow a 500 kg rotator from somebody. And I'm like, right, okay, rotator shit itself. I said, you need something like a 4-ton rotator to be able to do that. You need something pretty big manipulator. And you could tell that it had just been really big welds put in. Material probably wasn't that good. Just no real prep. Just make it look pretty, make it follow the line and ship it out. And then... But years on, all these cheap Chinese turbines were failing. And it's a case of this guy's now building it with Swiss steel and trying to weld it properly. But again, because what he's seen and what's coming from China, then he's looking at that and he's kind of going, it's an harder job than I realised this, getting it right. And I'm like, it is. It's a serious thing.
The Weld Like Batter podcast is sponsored by MS Welding, the #1 welding solution provider. mswelding.co.uk.
Yeah, there's a guy that is at the rugby club. His little boy's in the same sort of little tot session as mine, and he runs a Elite Mechanical over in Elland. And I see a lot of his posts and stuff where he says, I didn't get a job. I priced it up and they went with somebody else. And then 10 days later, the fella's on phone screaming blue murder because everything's gone to shit. It's leaking. The welds that this person had done were not to standard. He hadn't prepped the pipe. It's just completely blown off. And he says, yeah, I can come and fix it. So it's cost the customer double. And he just says that the cheap quote ain't always the good quote. And the person that's taking the job on sometimes needs to know a little bit about what the job entails. Otherwise, they hire the wrong people, and it costs them a lot in the long term, doesn't it?
At the moment, I'm having that exact same conversation regarding LEV, like welding LEV fume extraction. I'm like, the cheaper quote here. And I always kind of try and put it on I'm going to give you some questions to go ask the other company, and they go, why aren't you fighting your corner? So I don't need to. Just go ask them how they've got that calculation and that calculation and that calculation, and if they give you everything you need to know, then at least they've done the job properly. And then it goes quiet, and then they come back and go, right, okay, can you come in with your company then? And the cheaper quote isn't always the best quote. And I've seen that more and more. It's almost a desperation thing at the moment. I think there's so much negativity. People are almost buying into the fact that there might not be welding jobs. Things might be quiet out there. Production might be quiet. But then the good stuff needs to be paid for. Yeah. You can't do it cheap.
No. It's like buying a tools, innit? You always say you buy cheap, you buy it twice. You know, you can go buy a Black & Decker power drill, and it's all right for a bit of DIY at home, putting a shelf up.
Every now and again.
If you try and drill out above a 6mm hole, and you try and drill any metal or whatever, it's screaming its head off, it's going red hot, it cuts out. Whereas if you'd have paid some money and got a Makita or a Dual or something, it'll last you for 5 years getting hammered, and it's, you know, you get what you pay for, don't you?
You do, yeah. And I guess that's also down to knowledge and qualification as well. So tell me about some of the people you've had in lately. I know that you do the apprentices. I've met a couple of the apprentices at Byworths.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
yeah, I've got five there, and I think they'll be looking to take another couple on this year.
2 girls at Byworths.
Yes.
I only speak to the one with the dark hair. Which one's that?
That's Emily. She's in the construction shop.
So Emily was shouting at me the other day. I went in and she was like, "I've been on fire 3 times today." I went, "Right, let's have a look, Emily. Just calm down." And she went, I've been on fire. I've had fire in my boots." And I'm like, "Right, just let's have a look." And for some reason, somebody had given it wrong nozzle. Like she had like 40mm worth of stick out running at 18 volts. So I'm like, "Right, let's get right nozzle on. I think I've got one in my box. Let me help you out a bit here. Let me have a look. Emily, can you tell me why your machine's set like this? I'm in a bad mood." I'm like, "Right, okay." And in the end, she was putting a route in, and she went, "Oh, it's welding nice now." And like, yeah, okay.
She's a little star, to be honest.
Cracking welder, neat and tidy.
Very good. And I get her to sort of guinea pig some of the stuff that I get my level 3 fabricators to.
Well, tell me about it. So what do you get her doing?
So I spend any of my desk time really sad, like looking at things I can get them to make, because obviously they've got limited equipment that I can fabricate certain things with.
In terms of guillotines,
yeah,
presses.
I've got a big guillotine. I've just got a new section roller ordered that'll be getting delivered any time.
And now, what's that big enough to do?
It'll do 30mm flat and things like that.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's got the shaping for pipe and box section as well.
Nice, okay.
So we'll get them to do that, but I've got some sort of box section assemblies that basically, if I see it online from what the Endpoint company have done as a final exam piece, I try and draw it up on CAD, and then I'll say, right, we're going to make this. So
right.
Because she's really good at the welding, and you know, sometimes you don't want her to get bored, I'll say, right, Emily, come and make me that.
Yeah, she's good as Emily.
She'll do a damn sight better job than some of my level 3s will, that's been working 2 years longer and are 3 years older, and she's just got that eye for detail, and you can't stress enough wanting to do the job correctly and the quality, as opposed to just getting it done and it's rough as. She won't ever give you that.
I turned around to her the other day and went, do you know how good you are, Emily? Like, and she kind of looked at me with this incredibly vague look, and I went, "Do you know how good you are?" Like, and I was looking at an open route, on the furnace box. I was looking at the open route. I was like, yeah, "That is so neat." There's people that have been welding a lot longer than you that'll never get the punch through, never get the accuracy. She's so neat. But I think this comes back to a story that I tell about when I used to go to FTL years ago, and all the TIG welders were ladies. All of them. It was a factory full, and the grandma and the daughter and the auntie and the daughter again. And it was like generations, because they had a super neat eye, super good attention to detail, really good steady hand, could multitask. So they were talking about the weekend while they were TIG welding. It's
there were quite a few we go to the World Skills with them every year. For those that want to do it, and I pushed her last year, and she's quite a shy, reserved person, so she sort of didn't want to do it at the end. But they're all great, the ones that work at Byworth, to be fair, and they've all come through Simon's programme.
So they all came here at 16?
Yeah, so all of them there. So in Emily's group, there's her, there's G, and there's Max. They were all in the same group together on Simon's course, and then they all got a job the year after and joined my programme.
Okay.
And then they've got Del and Hash on. They're in their first year group, and again they came off Simon's second year group, so they'd done some motor vehicle work and stuff, then joined Simon, loved the welding, and then they went and got apprenticeships. And
it just shows you, doesn't it, how like following what you really want to do and giving something a go as well. Because Emily told me that basically, I think it might have been Simon, put a helmet on her head, give her a torch, and she liked it. She signed up. I didn't realise that's how it worked with Emily.
Yeah. She didn't know what to do. She's a clever girl, so she could have stayed on at school as well. But so they come in, and sometimes you just got to push them, haven't you? Because you've got some that are brash and will do anything. Yeah. You'll meet them all the time. The sort of the young 16-year-old that's going to take on the world, and then you've got the other ones that nervous when they see shadow next to them and it's their own.
Yeah.
But with a little bit of a push and a guidance, suddenly you found one there that's an absolute gem.
Yeah.
And they're all capable.
Yeah.
And that's when so these companies, sometimes when we talk about money and the pressure they put on them and stuff, and when they leave afterwards, why have they left? Sometimes actually, if you've got a good one, make sure you let them know and keep them, you know, and if that's going to cost you an extra 50 quid a week, then, you know, what will you get if they left?
Yeah, and how hard would it be to get a decent replacement?
Yeah. You know, so a lot of these apprentices, you know, you sort of take to them, look, a company's not going to hold it against you if you've got aspirations to go and do more, earn more, see more, do more, but don't be a bit of a douche when you're there. Leave on good terms, and they'll always say you'll have a job here if you ever need one. Yes. And they'll sort of wish you luck. Yeah. Because, you know, for everyone that wants to work in a shop forever, there'll be people that don't, and it's not a bad thing, is it? You know, to go and learn more skills and do more different jobs.
And let's talk about that for a minute. I think I'd love to take your take on this. So we get somebody in at 16, then they come to you for 2 years. Would it be 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah, so the level 2 is about, technically it's an 18-month course, so it roughly covers 2 academic years, because by the time you finish in the sort of Easter time, May time of that 18 months, you're not going to start another course till September. Yeah. But potentially I end up getting them for like, I've had some keep them for 5 years, because the level 3 is a 3-year course. So you start them as a level 2er, and you know, so you've known these kids, you've watched them grow up, so they finish and qualify at like 21, 22, and they've spent 6 years with me and Simon learning at Weld at college. It's
becomes family.
Yeah, so you know them quite well, so it's really nice to actually, and that's, I suppose, when you say why'd you get into it, in the training with people and seeing them do well and succeed. I suppose you're not in it to be a rich person, but it is nice to see them do well, the ones that want to.
Yeah, I love it.
And dragging the sort of DOSers ones that
getting them through.
They're a good laugh, but you know, they're hard graft. You know, for what you get paid from, you literally pull them through the course, and and then they'll sort of give you a little fist bump at the end and say cheers, and you never see them again. And you think,
yeah, but you've still done your best. And,
exactly.
And I think it's really, I love it. I love getting anybody over the line. But I like seeing, I think it's great. I don't know why people, you know, just don't give so much back. I think, you know, without it, we're not going to be selling welding machines and pulling triggers in 20 years' time, because there's going to be nobody to do it. Not in UK anyway. Let's say we get them to 22, right? And they're working at Job Shop ABC, and they're doing pressure stuff there, and they've been there for... And this is a good conversation. I think people need to be aware of this. I've got a really good take on it as well. They get to 27, 28. I might start thinking about settling down. But before I do that, I'm gonna maybe take a few different jobs. I might go traveling a little bit. Ultimately, you and I have seen people weld right up until retirement days. And we've seen people weld way beyond that. Somebody gets to 29, 30. Where do they go then? Where could the welding career take them then? What would be the next level? Could it be education like yourself?
Could be.
What about inspection and testing and going down that route as well? Tell me a bit about that.
So I don't know, I just think if you want to stay in the game, it's never wrong to want to keep learning something else. So I knew that I didn't want to hump steel around for the rest of my life doing the welding. I quite like it, and when I go into a company, I think I could put my overalls on and do a couple of days again, you know. Yeah. But I liked the training element, so I worked with the apprentices a lot, and I met my colleague Ash, who was the assessor. Right. And that's how I fell into this one. I got a job, and from there I've gone on, and now you realise how much more you're learning. I think if I'd have done more as an apprentice, I wouldn't have had to relearn as much. But you can then move into, like I've done, I've got the C-SWIP, and I can do the inspection, and I keep pushing to do another course, whether it's a bit of metallurgy that helps me deliver further courses about what the steel does and why, or what other metals, why you have to weld it a certain way, how you can't weld it. So having that extra knowledge means you're still involved in it, but you're not necessarily with your mask on every day for 40 hours a week.
Sure. What metallurgy have you been learning about lately? Well, what course is it you've done?
I haven't done it. I keep sort of niggling at it, so I don't have to pay for it myself. But I want to do either the weld engineer or the sort of metallurgy one, because they often they sort of merge.
They do. How long's the? I think there's a metallurgy one. You can do a year's course, can't you? You can do a basic year's one, I think.
So it depends on what you want to do. Like the one I've seen is from a consultancy company called Philip Brailsford, and it's a 70-hour, 80-hour CPD course. Okay. So they send you all the stuff, you home study it, and then you do the testing.
Do the test.
So it's a quick fire one, whereas if you were doing it through TWI, it'd cost you thousands.
Yeah, and a much longer period of time.
And you'd have to have but if you were wanting to be an out-and-out inspector...
Inspector or welding engineer.
Yeah, going into your Rolls Royce and stuff like that, then those are the qualifications you want to be sort of pushing to. Yeah. But, I mean, you can do it all. You could end up in university again now, couldn't you? And you could retrain and do that.
Well, you could do a metallurgy degree, and you could take that to another level.
Correct.
You know, but then I speak about this regularly. In certain applications, you get people who might only work on aluminium for their entire life, and they've got the dream job, and they don't want to do anything else, and they're quite happy doing that. You know, so doing that 7 years extra is going to be no good for them.
No.
But I do think there's a lot to learn. And then I've got a friend who lives local actually, and I only met him through work. But he started out as a welder, started out on the tools, worked his way up, became a European welding inspector. And now I get random WhatsApp pictures of him, like maybe frying an egg on a deck of a ship, and he's been out on the ship for 6 to 8 weeks, or maybe 10 weeks or 12 weeks sometimes. And then I get a picture of the ship in the dock, and then I'll hear from him because he needs something for home, and he'll come in, or can you drop me some pipe off or whatever. And then his next job will be, all right, I'm going out to Alaska. Or I'm going out somewhere else, and I never know where he's going. I think he works incredibly hard while he's out there, but when he comes back, it's good because, like, I think his accountant probably says you need to take a few weeks off.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's the situation. But I think there's going to be an abundance of those jobs in the future, like definitely inspected, but also working on them pipeline ships. Like, have you ever seen them? Like where the pipe comes in pretty much in raw state, and we keep it on the ship, and then we weld it in. We clad it, and we it's like something else, and it's dropped into the ocean as a fully tested pipe. Have you never seen it?
No, never.
Ah, right. So you need to, this needs to be next YouTube channel. So basically, you get your raw material on a pipe, and it's automation. It's all, but you need to be a proper welder to be able to do the job. And it's kind of put together in the automation system, and it's welded up, and then it's maybe clad, or it's covered, or it's painted, or whatever, or treated, and there's extra parts welded on it. Basically, it's a sacrificial layer in some instances, and then it's tested in real time. It's all done in real time.
Right.
The pipe, the ship's kind of moving slowly. Everything on the ship's happening in real time, and it's getting dropped into the ocean, like at the back. It's awesome to see.
But it just shows, though, doesn't it, that, like I say, if you won't hear about those jobs doing 2 years at college or a 3-year apprenticeship, but, that's the beauty of social media and YouTube and stuff, actually seeing some of these jobs, because it does open your eyes, and you think, actually, I won't mind a bit of that, and they can pursue it. But
I think to get to that level, I think it's really important to understand you're not going to get there from welding brackets.
No.
You're gonna have to really work up, and it's going to be probably a midlife job. You're going to get there at like a midlife time, because you'd have had the experience on the tools doing the job.
And I think that, that's why whenever there's jobs going here for any of the sort of vocations in the trades, and somebody comes in that's sort of 21 and they want to teach it, and you think, but sure, you only qualified 3-4 months ago. You probably want another, I'd done it for sort of 16 years before I came here. I'd had 3 different jobs doing very different things. Yeah. So I'd got a bit of life experience, and I'd seen it, done it to an extent.
Yeah.
And there's still things I didn't know. Obviously, there's always something, but when you've had very limited and you're still very green, I never understand why you fully want to get straight into teaching it.
I don't understand either.
But like I say, when you've done 15 years of it, and you can do the grassroots stuff very well, then you can push yourself, can't you? And if you go and imagine doing a job like that, and the tales you come back and tell your mates and stuff like that, it's mega, isn't it? And the bank balance will hopefully balance up at the same time. I was working with somebody, it might have been about 18 months ago. You got into a conversation while I was doing a job. It was confidential, and he was like, "Oh yeah, my last job, I was commissioned to go retrieve an F-35 fighter from like the bottom of the ocean." I'm like, right, that's pretty tidy. Like, you've obviously done something quite special. And I just think, like you say, it's those jobs, isn't it? That you're going to have to put the graft in. But I think welding can lead itself into so many different applications and jobs. So back to work downstairs. Let's talk about that. What facilities got? TIG, MIG, MMA, and you're proficient at helping people with all 3. Yeah. So I'd probably say that the one I do the least of is the manual metal arcing these days, because a lot of companies aren't doing it. If you're inside a shop, you're MIGging it or you're TIGging it, aren't you? Yeah. Or magging it for the technicalities in a lot of the terms. But yeah, we're proficient in them all, and we get the flux core out and stuff. So it's good. Those ones that can, we push them on to do more. It was always a nice chat with Ofsted. What do you offer to challenge them? Well, they can do as much as they want if they want, but the challenge is sometimes just getting them through course. Especially depending on where they work. But yeah, we've got a range of equipment, so we've got a lot of EWM stuff in there. Yeah. The sort of 5-year-old, 6 year, maybe probably about 8-9 year old.
I'm going to say it's older than that. I think
it came in just before I got here. So, and then there's some proper old boy Ciboras that must be about 35. I think I'm pretty sure I learned on them when I was 16 at the old college.
I've got some old stuff, and then I remember having to walk around all the week. There's some old stuff in. Even EWMs look a bit old now, though.
Well, yeah, compared to the ones that I had before I left by, that they invested in the sort of next level up. That's the sort of 3-4 grand machine to the 15 grand machine. Yeah. But yeah, and then we've got a couple of Jasics that are. The inverters aren't bad, but the transformer sets,
do a job.
They cut out big time. If you run a few 23 volters on it, they soon overheat.
I think with all welding kit, I think the problem is I'm seeing it on LinkedIn at the minute. I'm seeing it's absolutely chaos. People will sell something out of the fear of missing out on a sale, and sometimes it's not the right piece of equipment for the job. No. It'll either be oversold or it'll be undersold. But quite often I'm seeing. I had a missed sale if they didn't want to spend that. Well, ultimately, I tend to bow out if you don't want to spend that, and I know it's the right piece of kit for your job. Yeah. I need to bow out. It was never going to be my sale anyway. I'm really sorry, but but people seem to be scared, and what happens is you end up with machines that just don't perform, or they don't outsee the life. They seem to have a very short life in some cases.
That sort of thing that when you're sort of teaching some of the theory, we call it like the throwaway stuff. Yeah. Duty cycle of a machine means diddly to most welders. Yeah. But when you try and explain it to me, say, right, well, if you're in the shop and you want to buy a piece of equipment, what do you do daily and how much of it do you do? Yeah. Because that's how ultimately what makes it, there's no point buying that 18 grand Fronius set or EWM set if you're doing gates and railings all day. Where longest weld you ever do is 50 mil. There's no point buying all that equipment because you'll never get value out of it. No. But a 300 amp, 5 grand, 3 grand machine will run all day for you on what you're doing with it. So you don't need much more than a 65-70% cycle.
And there's some really good stuff now. There's some, there's not really. There is some shit, but there's not really a bad machine, so to speak, anymore. Everybody seems to up the game. And I think that's, initially when inverters came to the market and people were producing weld inverters, they were absolute garbage. The only ones that were good were the high-end ones that were super expensive. But now we're at a point where inverter technology is pretty much sorted itself out. Everybody knows how to do it really, really well. And people seem to be catching up magnificently on welding processes. I used a Lorch the other day. Don't stab me in the back or shoot me with an arrow, but I did. And on stainless steel, I think it was potentially the best machine I'd ever used in a mag process for stainless. I came away thinking that looks better than a lot of TIG welding that I see from people. It was really good. It's good, I think, at that top end where you've got Fronius, Lorch, EWM, Miller as well. That gap now is significantly smaller than it's ever been. But the majority of people wanting to put stuff into the factory to weld, to get a job done and make money, you've got to have a look at how much do you actually need to spend. And I think something that I come across is people are scared of it. They've not seen the high-end stuff. Yeah. It's not been trained properly because it was probably sold and training might have been delivered initially, but then everybody just kind of passed one setting around the shop. He always welds it at 28 volts and he always passes that kind of thing. And people don't. So that's something I try to do, is really push forward how you would use a new welding process, like a purpose routing program. Why is that beneficial to you? And a routing process. Why would you use that? And what's the benefits of using it? And then why would you use pulse or a high deposition process? Yeah. Why would you use it? And I think quite often people come into the world, I don't know what you guys are like regarding that stuff, but it's not really taught in many colleges, like why you'd use those different processes, because a lot of colleges don't have the technology.
So we've got most of our machines that's our EWM inverters and the Lincoln ones we've got, even the old Lincoln PowerTech one, they've got pulsar modes on them for mag and the other ones have got it for TIG.
Yeah.
And I do cover it when you're doing modes of transfer.
Brilliant.
How it is, if you're doing a corner weld or if you drop welding, putting that pulse on, you get you a bit of a punch through an 0.5 mil gap, so you get a stronger bond, you get better fusion on it. And it's knowing how to set it, but that reducing the heat input, I bang on about, obviously, especially at level 3s when we talk about you sort of normalising in the heat affected zones that you come into it, saying how actually if you use the pulse, you can significantly reduce that, which at the end of the day, if it's low key stuff, it won't make any difference on low carbon steel, but on a more big ticket, a bit more carbon in it. Having that heat input's a big thing. Stainless, if you do that wrong, you end up just wrecking it.
It looks black. It's mild steel, you've welded some expensive mild steel.
It's all really, really nice, apart from weld area that's rusty as, because it's just pitting and going minging because you've burnt out chromium out of it. And it's,
there's not left.
Yeah, so it's, and then that expensive job suddenly straight into the bin. But it's nice to be able to have it, and that's where we go back to a bit of investment and having more evolving equipment, getting that in, so you can talk about it and show it and say why it's beneficial. Do it like that, do it like this. Because if your pulse breaks and you've still just got to put a dip transfer fillet in, then do it.
At least you know you can do it.
And we can test it both ways. So I often try and get them, put them on some 10 mil, do a 4-way fillet and test it and do it 3 different ways. Overheads, verticals, flats, spray, whatever. And then do a 4-way macro on it, and you can see the fusion on them all.
You can actually show them what they've done.
Why can't you do a downhill weld? Well, that's why.
It's good to show it though, isn't it? Like when you cut it and you actually etch it and you actually let them see that there's a big gap behind that weld. There's you
could hit that one, it'd fall off. Whereas that one, you could put in a grenade and it wouldn't break.
Good.
So we do cover that, and one of the other ones is obviously like showing them on a butt weld. A pulse setting's quite nice for that route, but also showing them that if you went downhill on that route when it's in position, and then you go uphill on your cap, and they're like, "Oh no, you've always said you can't go downhill, but you can on that," and this is why. So show it, they do it, and then we'll bend 4 bits of it up. Well, that's as good as it needs to be, and you've bent all 4 bits through 180 degrees. It's fused, isn't it? So it's not wrong. It's just people don't like to accept it.
Yeah, and there's a massive dark area about it. Some people, you might get an inspector that will go out to a job and he'll say, I'm not passing it off if you drag it in. I'm not going to allow you to pull it down. I'm not going to allow that. And some people will still say that. But like, as you know, on an open route, if you've got an open route and you're using a specific process and you're coming down nice and steady, so something like cold arc, or they also do the route arc as well, and you're coming down with incredible precision, you're probably coming down every bit as slow in some cases as you might be going up. So your heat input's right. It's not going to be a cold weld. The problem is when you get 2 bits of 30 mil plate, you bang them shut together with no prep, and then you try and put a really big heavy weld down outside, just rag it in, and then you go, you've just laid like loads of material on surface.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I once went to a job and somebody were going to weld a boat like that, and I said, what do you think, Baz? And I went, you need some 2.5 mil slitting discs in your 9-inch grinder, and you need to slit between all them massive 5 mil plates that you put on your boat, and then we'll start again. I'm like, what? I said, that nobody's going to pass that off.
Yeah, well, that's your thing, isn't it? It's and something that you look at compliance and procedures and understand like wider understanding. So I love arguing with my apprentices when you they all come in and whether they're doing like, everyone does that sort of forward back on a mag welder where you get the
Where's that come from?
But everyone does it, and it's always taught, and you're like, but why?
Where's it come from?
And it seems to be, it's just like indoctrinated into everybody now, innit, across all sort of factories. And you're like, and then I'm trying to say, ignore that guy who's been welding for 10 years longer than I have, because it's wrong. It needs to just be a full fluid weld from...
It needs to look like silicon sealer.
Yeah, it should be smooth. It shouldn't have all these ripples in it just because it looks good. Turn that video off where he says stacking dimes, because it's absolute tosh. And do it like this, and then this is why. All right, but you're having to sort of retrain them, aren't you?
I see it a lot, and I don't know if it's come from. Obviously, when you mag weld in aluminium, it's incredibly soft, and it does weld quite. It slumps. So like having a little bit of a back step just to backfill, so you've got some material. So I don't know if it's come from that, but you walk around the factory and you see proper big stuff, and it's all been done with this mild steel back step, and I'm like, what are you doing? It should look like silicon sealer. Licked your finger, wiped it in,
exactly,
forgotten about it. So I'm glad you're working hard at that.
Or the little TIG welds, and they run a weld and it's tiny. Like there's hardly any wire in it, and you're like,
but it's golden.
But it looks great, and it will be strong. But when you're doing, then you come to do but you've got to do a 3 mil fillet for a corded weld. that's no good. It's got to meet some form of sizing on your legs and stuff. So you're having to go, right, you need to get more wire in there, and it takes them forever. And they can do a beautiful tiny weld. You go, yeah, but that's just holding an handrail together. Like it's not designed to do anymore. In any case, it's perfect. But when it's going up to something that's holding some form of pressure or load bearing, then you need a bit more meat in there. And so
I'm really glad there's some youth like you, like proper drilling it into them, because I think for a long time there's been, and a lot of that was like some really big companies. I know that I used to go in and say, like, have you actually, is anything tested? Anybody got any quals? Like, what's going on? What? And like, no, we don't need it. And then all of a sudden, like, somebody gets appointed to be in charge of welding, and then everybody gets sent off for some welding tests, and everybody gets qualled up, and something's gone wrong somewhere.
Yeah, but you can, you see it all the time, people screaming about it online, don't you, about how you've got weld inspectors and weld engineers that have gone, and they're very clever, and they've gone through and done all the qualifications, but never really been a welder.
Never pulled the trigger.
And and you often say to them, like, the argument of, when a weld fails, is it bad weld, bad welder, or is it bad engineer?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the welders shit up. They've just done it how they were told to do, but the joint fit up that you've been given was completely inadequate. And therefore, something's gone wrong with it. And it's not their fault.
No.
But you always look like the bad guy, don't you? Because
last one to touch it.
Yeah. So when that thing collapses and you're in court, and it's like, yeah, but you told me to do it that way, and there was actually no wrong with it, and I've got all my quals.
Yeah.
So it does go wrong, doesn't it? And who's on more brass for it?
I think ultimately, where do you want to leave it? You do a great job. You're at Keighley College, which isn't far from Bradford. How many miles?
From centre of Bradford, not long, 4 or 5 tops.
You take people from all over?
Yeah, well, we're right on the train station, so you can get in from Leeds or further afield and come in. I've had a student that used to travel in from sort of near Selby way.
Oh, right, cool.
And he was a top lad.
Right.
And he did his level 3 with us.
Right.
So, yeah, we sort of, we're not picky, we'll take you from anywhere.
And you offer your services to anybody. If somebody needs qualifying,
absolutely.
Get in touch with you, and it's something you can do bespoke. And I think more now than ever is a good time to get yourself qualled up for something, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Fill the gap, get better at it, enjoy what we do, but
it's not over expensive to do it. It's an investment.
Yeah, definitely. Get involved, come and see us. We're always looking to take on through September, whether that's directly as an apprentice, whether it's wanting to get a year under your feet, learning to weld and getting a bit of a passion for it.
Because you'll get all them good holidays, won't you?
We get a few days off. Could get a few more in. But it's rewarding for us for that sense. So yeah, if you like welding, get into us. If you need upskilling, get in touch and we can do some bespoke courses to fit what you want to do.
Interesting, good. And
for any sort of coded welding requirements, whether it's for companies that build in-house all the time, we can do it just like a coder welder or anybody else can.
Is there anything you can't do? Is there anything that you don't do? Anything you don't accept?
If it were any sort of fancy nickel alloy stuff, your sort of really exotic stuff, not really my specialty or anything like that. But if it's for your sort of run-of-the-mill carbon steel, stainless steel, plate or butt weld or pipe welds, we can accommodate that, inspect it, test it.
You can do pipe 6G?
Yeah, I've had guys come in and doing that, and then we just send that off to our friends at the labs and they'll test it up for us. Perfect. And let us know. So yeah, in that sense, we'll do pretty much anything.
Brilliant. Where can people find you?
So you can find me at adam.sutcliffe2 at keighleycollage.ac.uk.
Just say that again.
adam.sutcliffe2 at keighleycollage.ac.uk.
I'll put the link in the description.
Or you can get online and find us at Keighley College and just call up the reception and ask for welding, and myself or Simon will pick it up and take it from there.
Brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on. I can't wait to chat to everybody this afternoon and give them an inspirational talk about working on a pipeline shift.
Yeah, Brill Baz. Nice to see you and thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.
The Weld Like Bazza podcast is sponsored by MS Welding, the #1 welding solution provider. mswelding.co.uk.